for them to finish getting our audio and our live virtual participants online, I like to know who's in the room. So I see some familiar faces, and I see a lot of faces I don't know. So for those I don't know, welcome to a Christine and Hilary presentation where we will become fast friends. And so for those I don't really know, I am going to just hand you the microphone and ask you to introduce yourself. Tell me your name, your organization, and what brings you to this work, your why, really quickly.
Morning, everybody. I'm Jeff Campbell. I'm at Lewis and Clark Community College. My car brought me here yesterday. I am in adult education, and workforce is very close, near and dear to our hearts for our students. So that's why.
I don't know. And over here, tell me.
Hi, my name is Amara Lee. I too got here by my car yesterday. I am with the TREP School. We are a sub-grantee of Vermilion Advantage. I am a community navigator for the CEJA program.
Very good. I see two CEJA folks. How about you?
Good morning. My name is Antonio Garcia. I am the Director of Workforce Development for LWIA 1 and the CEJA Program Administrator for the Waukegan Hub.
Waukegan in the house. More CEJA. Let's go to this side of the room. How about you?
Hi, good morning, everyone. Tasha Allen. I work at the Illinois Community College Board, and I am over the Rev Up EV program, and so I'm just interested to hear about other clean energy initiatives in the state.
Perfect. And those who are just joined us virtually, put something in the chat. Again, let us know who you are, your name, your organization, and your why.
Good morning, Dane Mazzigato with Joliet Junior College, working out of the Joliet CEJA Workforce Hub. And the why is I'm working to improve communities.
We're going to do one more and let us know if anything has popped up in the chat.
Hi, I'm Donna Claxton, and I'm with National Able Network, and we're here representing the SNAP Employment and Training Program.
Fantastic. Good to see maybe some of our wraparound services in the room for us to connect our energy workforce and the other resources. How about you, Ms. Charlene?
Hi, everyone. My name is Charlene Nelson. I'm here from CEFS Workforce Development, and I'm a WIA coordinator for WIA 23.
Oh, fantastic. So now we have WIOA, CEJA, wraparound services in the room. Tara, has anyone popped in virtually?
Rocky Wilkerson, and good morning, Rocky Wilkerson, Workforce Investment Solutions.
Awesome. Welcome, Rocky. She's an old friend of mine, so I'm glad to see her there. Good morning, everyone. I'm Christine Flynn. I'm with the Workforce Policy Lab out of Northern Illinois University. We partner with the Department of Commerce to help them build, implement, and then evaluate workforce and economic development programs. And today, I'm here with my partner in crime. If you know, we present a lot together. We have a lot of fun doing it. So why don't you go and introduce yourself, Larry?
Thanks, Christine, AKA the Magician. My name is Hilary Scott-Ogunrinde. I'm the Deputy Director for the Office of Energy and Business Utility at the Illinois Department of Commerce. And yes, we are fortunate to have the Magician, Christine Flynn, to be part of our CEJA implementation team in the Office of Energy and Business Utility. And we are going to do an experiment today. You all ready to be scientists? Did you know that you are living, working scientists in the work that you do every day?
Raise your hand if you know that you are a scientist every day.
Okay. So we have a few people who are aware that they are doing a major experiment. For those of you who do not realize you are, by the end of this presentation, you will realize that you are a master scientist and you are in the midst of an amazing experiment of determining how you're going to create the future's energy workforce. And so let's do a little grounding. Let's go back to what grade was this? Maybe 8th grade, where we learned about what a science experiment or the scientific method. And so first it's identifying the problem and asking the question, taking that problem and putting it in the form of a question, then doing a little background research, developing a hypothesis, conducting the experiment, analyzing the results, collecting the data, then analyzing results, and then sharing those results with others and deciding, do we need to redo this experiment, adding any additional variables or taking some out? So that's exactly what we're doing with CEJA. And even if you're in WIOA or whatever else you're doing every single day, even in your life, I just had that conversation with my son on the 2.5 hours drives up, that our life is a complete experiment. We do something, then we step back and take a look, what did we learn? And then we apply those lessons to the next major event or activity to see what results we can get to improve the results and the outcomes. Well, that's what we're doing here with CEJA, and that's what you are doing every day, and we're gonna conduct an experiment today. And this circular piece right here, steps 4, 5, and 6, are where we are right now in the CEJA implementation. We're taking a look at the data that we've collected. We're sharing that data out, sharing it with other subject matter experts, and then we're evaluating how should we redo this experiment? What additional variables should we add or take out? And so let's talk about what was the problem? How did we get here? What made us start this experiment? We asked the question, what do we do to create an agile, equitable workforce that promotes generational wealth and thriving communities in the clean energy era? That's the question that FEJA and CEJA asked. And what made us ask that question was really historical things that communities were experiencing and research that advocacy groups and government agencies gathered, which informed that Illinois' fossil fuel workforce needed to transition, and it needed to transition in an effort so that communities who were close to plants that were being closed, they lost revenue and they lost jobs and they lost economic opportunity. And so as a result, the clean energy economy needed to really have a robust catalyst. And so that was growing nationally. We needed to figure out how Illinois could take advantage of that growth. And so we looked at where does that growth really need to occur? And we looked at the historically disadvantaged communities that have been impacted by environmental and economic injustices and disparities and said, let's look at those communities as well as the environmental justice communities that have been impacted by plant closures and really focus our clean energy transition in those communities. And so we said, how do you do that? How do you jumpstart economic development? Well, you have to have a skilled workforce so that you can then attract businesses to come there, and those businesses and that workforce will then generate the revenue and elevate the economic conditions. And so our hypothesis was, if Illinois makes significant investments in changing regulation, closing fossil fuel plants, and increasing clean energy through workforce, businesses, and economic development with a focus on equity-eligible communities, then Illinois can equitably achieve 100% clean energy by 2050. So what regulation did we create? What statutes occurred? We had FEJA, ran that experiment, shifted it a little bit, then came up with CEJA. We're running that experiment. We've learned some things over the past few years, which made us say, well, let's do CEJA, because now we need battery storage. Now we need, right? Then we also said, well, the federal government has some tools too. Some they've pulled away from us. Some are still in the marketplace. Let's chase those. So we got a about $400 million in the climate pollution reduction grant. And so now what comes next? All of these experiments that have been occurring over the past several years, you've been a part of, whether or not you've realized it or not. But now that we've run these experiments, how are we going to pivot? How are we going to do 4, 5, and 6 of the scientific method? So we analyzed some program data. We found out that our workforce hubs, that 69% of the participants actually were placed in a job. We learned that 46% of those participants were placed in clean energy jobs. Within the EEF and CSES grants, that stands for Equitable Energy Future and Community Solar Sovereignty grants. Those grants are within my office, and those are programs that provide pre-development funding to develop a project with energy efficiency or renewable technology in it. If we develop the project, then what will we need then? We'll then need the skilled workforce, and we'll need the contractors, right? So we recognize that a few of the projects reported that they can no longer execute as a result of the Inflation Reduction Act being eliminated. So some of those solar incentives that were part of IRA, once those went away, it killed their project. And more applications were meeting the merit review threshold. However, and so now we're oversubscribed for these programs by 37%. So we gained a lot of people wanting to access this funding to create projects, but now we don't have enough money to fund 37% of them. In the Energy Transition Communities Grants, that's money for communities who were impacted by the plant or mine closures. We experienced a 75% increase in grant awards. We went from 58 awards in 2024 to 104. So again, the demand is increasing for the services and the programs that we're offering. And our incubator accelerator programs are at their very beginning stages of implementation. But what we do know is that 164 contractors with have 73 contracts. And so what we see is that, and this is just among 6 awards, we have 13 in total that will be up and live. So if we're getting this type of impact, imagine what it will look like once the system is fully operating. So real world impact. Don't look at the screen. Let's see. I have Alton Workforce Hub here. So I want you to think about, what would you say the real world impact has been as a result of your program? Really quickly, just tell me from your last 2 cohorts, just share with this audience what the real world impact has been.
We've seen the lives of our trainees completely transformed and changed through their success stories, through the skills and confidence that we give them through our solar training, through our HVAC training, and through our construction pre-apprenticeship training. We've seen them get real jobs in the workplace, make real money that helps them pay their bills and take care of their families, and they show their appreciation. And we see that every single cycle.
Thank you. So the last graduation I attended at Alton, I left in tears. And many people in the audience did, because you saw several examples, but one in particular of a woman that just said that she was pretty much on her last rope. And she heard about the program, and it changed her life, and then as a result, it changed her daughter's life. She then was convinced that she did have what it took to adequately take care of her daughter and create opportunities for her daughter that she never had. That's real world impact. In East St. Louis, too, a graduate came just by a fluke. A friend told him about it. The friend didn't attend, but he attended, and as a result, he started a business. He was hired by the Navigator, and he is also engaged in one of the projects that's being funded under EEF to participate in the solar farm project, putting 5 megawatts of solar in a brownfield site called Alcoa, and he wants to have an O&M company, and so he would be the ideal person to then have that O&M company and manage the results of that 5 megawatt site. So it really is impact, right? We can say that we are creating impact. And so when we analyze that data, and when we look at all of the results that we have, we realize that we have communities are being impacted differently by the clean energy transition. What's needed in Waukegan and the resources available in Waukegan are not necessarily available in East St. Louis and Carbondale. So there's a regional, there's a local strategy that needs to be developed. We've noticed that innovation, ingenuity, and testing the theories are essential to the work that we're doing. People are a science. We also realize that the system must be designed to be agile. A lot of people use the word resilience, and that's not what we're doing here. We don't want the communities to be resilient because we don't want them to bounce back to where they were. We want them to be able to exceed where they were. We want these communities to no longer need CEJA funding or FEJA funding 20 years from now. We want them to be thriving communities. The organizational capacity, we realized, is a challenge. As we administered CEJA, there were multiple cities. We had to have 4 rounds, and because we could not find or secure organizations to be the navigator of the workforce program in those communities. So we realized there was organizational capacity in various communities throughout the state. And we also realized that employer engagement is key. The end result and the goal is for people to have a career, AKA a job, AKA income, right? And the only way to do that is there has to be someone who's going to employ them. So, with that being said, put your lab coats on, and Christine's gonna walk you through this experiment.
Thank you, Hilary. So we talked a lot about the policy experiments that we're doing, but I think everyone in this room knows that you don't have to pass new legislation to conduct an experiment, right? We know every piece of legislation, and if you don't know this, let me tell you, is an experiment. It's literally a theory saying, we think if we do X, Y will take place. And then they pass money through state agencies, and everyone in this room then goes and conducts the experiment on the ground. And then we come to you, our office sometimes, hopefully you're not annoyed by us, we'll say, hey, is this working? Is this working on the ground? Are we seeing placements rates on the ground? Are we seeing wraparound services or barrier reduction services being used? And then we use those results to say, this is what we're finding. This is where we need to improve. This is where we need to start to close some gaps. So we're doing that in CEJA right now. You can see at the legislative level, CEJA got passed because we needed another acronym. So obviously we needed to add FEJA, CEJA, CERJA, CPRG. But we also are starting to do some program level work. So our first one is the curriculum update. So this piece of legislation did a really unique thing. It actually requires every 3 years to do a review of the curriculum update. Does anyone know why that's so essential for the work that we're doing in the Climate and Equitable Jobs Act? Technology keeps changing. We know by definition that the clean energy industry is changing sometimes year by year, sometimes more rapidly. And so we don't know what jobs are going to be needed by 2050. And so it created that flexibility so that we can continue to update our curriculum to match those labor demands. Or if an administration comes in and decides they hate solar, as we have experienced, that also gives us an opportunity to be flexible. So right now, if you guys don't know, I'm going to give you a real action item you can do. Yesterday, or 2 days ago, the curriculum RFI just came out for CEJA programs. So if you are interested in giving feedback on the CEJA framework, please do. I'm happy to connect you to that link. But that is a real opportunity for you to shape the curriculum for the next 3 years in CEJA. So please keep that in mind. The second experiment is about organizational capacity. So Hilary had that as one of her last points. We found that there was disproportionate capacity across the state. And not that there weren't organizations in every area of the state that wanted to do CEJA, but they didn't have the capacity as an organization to take on such a large grant. And so like Hilary said, we went through round after round after round trying to find those partners who could handle that program, who could administer the program, or had an interest in administering the program, right? Because if you're an organization and you're about to be handed a massive grant, you as the lead of that organization may say, this is gonna drown us, and I'm not willing to take that chance. Even though I know this is gonna make a big impact, I can't take that chance. I can't put my people out of work because if this goes wrong, right? So I'm gonna talk about this a little bit in just a minute, but how we are solving that is this year, actually, you will all be the first to know, this month, we are releasing an application for the CEJA Capacity Grant. Some of you have heard of that. We were gonna release it back in February. We wanted to work out some final details, but that is coming out. This is direct funding and support for organizations across the state to build up their organizational capacity so they have the ability to join the CEJA ecosystem and make this impact. So if you would like more information, I will get you that link, but it is cgs.niu.edu/CEJA capacity. You can find more information there. So the last one is employer engagement. How many of you in this room have trouble engaging employers? Okay. How many of you have employer partners that you know every single time you go to them, they will hire your people, or you have solid relationships or agreements with them? Okay, good. Okay, that's good to know. So employer engagement is something that we have, as the CEJA ecosystem, have been really trying to work on. Part of that is that clean energy is huge. Clean energy is part of a lot of different jobs, and so defining what a clean energy employer is can be really difficult. So that's part of what we're working on now, is how do we even define what it means to be a clean energy employer? And then how do we ensure that we are not fatiguing our employers, right? So I don't know if you guys know, but Illinois is #1 in our region for workforce development. Why that is because we have a really robust system. Everyone in this room is from, CEJA, WIOA, we have Illinois Works, we have Apprenticeship Illinois, we have all of these different layers. And sometimes those employers get fatigued talking to every single person saying, hey, I'm new, hey, this is our new program, please hire our people. And so this is something we're working on, we're aligning on. And it's actually something that all of you are just in a couple minutes going to help us solve. Are you excited? Oh, come on, we can do better than that. You're like, I solve this every day is what I'm trying to do. All right, so we wanna walk you through just an example of what we're about to do together. So this is for our organizational capacity. You all will be getting together in groups in just a moment, and those of you online will also be in your own group. But we're going to give you a problem statement. So for our organizational capacity, it was that we were struggling to find capable grantees, especially organizations in central and southern Illinois. Then you're gonna come up with your actions. What do you think we need to do to address that problem? So for us, we're implementing our capacity grant program, we're investing support and funding, and then how are you gonna measure it? So once you have these actions, how are you gonna know if those actions are working or not? And so we're gonna look at the number of organizations awarded, the CEJA grants, that's our ultimate goal. We're gonna look at the number of organizational needs that are addressed. So of those organizations, they're saying, hey, I have an issue in my governance, I have an issue in my funding. Are we addressing those and how many? And then the percentage of organizations that increase their operational revenue. That's another measure for us. And then you guys in your experiment are going to come up with what success looks like. For us, success is a thriving network in all 14 CEJA communities. And we've defined it by these 4 areas. So we want strong leadership, strong operational infrastructure, strong fiscal outcomes, and then quantifiable local economic impact. So this is how we started to plan out the organizational capacity grant, the CEJA Capacity Grant, is what is the issue we're seeing, what do we need to do, how are we gonna know we're successful, and then ultimately, what will that success look like on the ground? So now it is time to design your own region's experiment. So what we are going to do is we're going to break up into 4 groups in the room. We're going to do a Southern Illinois group, Central Illinois, Northern, excluding Chicago, and then a Chicago group. So we're going to have you get up and move, and then we are going to give you a piece of paper to start working on your own experiment, which I will explain once you're in your own groups. So we're going to do Chicago in the back of the room by the exit sign there. We're going to do, so that's Chicago. Northern, non-Chicago will be on this side in the back. Southern will be up here, and Central will be over here. So let's go ahead and shift. So again, Chicago, Northern, not Chicago, Southern, Central. You won't be by yourself, you're good. Yeah, we have Alton here. I know we have Carbondale. So come on in. Hi, Kevin. All right, so again, Chicago is back in that corner, Northern, non-Chicago, Southern, Central. And then those of you on the virtual, in the virtual session, you will be your own group. All right. And you all should have a piece of paper and markers. Okay. So here's what we are going to solve for. So we talked about employer engagement as our last area that we are trying to solve for. So your problem statement is, and I'll make this larger in just a second. Your problem statement is placement and retention rates are below 70% for graduates of CEJA training programs. Your group is going to come up with the actions you need to take in your region to address that, how you would measure if those actions are successful or not, and then what are those success signals? So what might you see on the ground, changes in your community that have that real impact? And you guys have, let's see what time it is, 20 minutes to do this. So go ahead. And those of you on virtual, we'll give you a time stamp and we'll just have you upload your response into the chat. Okay, we have 8 more minutes, so make sure to get those actions, your measures, your success signals down on paper. You will be presenting this to the rest of the group, so not to throw that out there randomly, but make sure you got information on your paper so you can share it with the rest of the team. Those of you online, if you can come up with kind of your statement for what your actions, your measures, your successes are, and we will have our people here in the room read that out for you. Okay, we have 4 more minutes until we report out. Okay, 1 minute. Finish up your final thoughts. Those online, if you are finishing up your final thoughts as well. Okay, we are moving into reporting out. All right, so I am going to ask you all to nominate 2 people in your group. One person is going to report out here in the room, and one person is going to enter your information into our fun QR code here so we can capture all of this information and use it as we work to pivot employer engagement. So go ahead and choose one person who's going to talk on the mic and one person who will be your QR scribe here. And those online, if you can have someone volunteer to put in the information online as well. Oops, let me get out of it. Yes. Yep, and Tara will speak for our online participants. Are they ready to go? We can start with them.
The online participants are rock stars.
Awesome.
They were very engaged and talking to each other, adding a lot of ideas. We have to get feedback from employers about what kind of candidates have been referred and be intentional when talking to new clients about expectations. There's so much to share. Honestly, they have done such an excellent job. Education and incentives to grow these programs and expand. For action, ensure that we're sharing all of them, right? Just kind of,
Yep.
okay.
Yeah.
Ensure that graduates are attaining soft skills as well as the required trainings. Some measures, coaching and guidance of common and critical thinking skills. The success signals would be an improvement in the retention rates.
Great.
Reaching out to employers, to find out what exactly is needed to make sure this is covered and met in the training program prior to being hired. We had some people share kind of their situations in their certain areas, so that was nice too, just to kind of summarize what was going on. An idea to have people who are employed through the program come back to encourage those who are currently in the program.
Oh, awesome. So like that alumni connection. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Great.
Good.
Awesome.
Online share like a metric, like any quantitative thing? If we don't get anything virtually, as you come up in the room, make sure you do pull some of those measurable things.
we can maybe offer an incentive for our partners, pay for the first 30 days of employment so that is the risk is free for hiring and training. So I just saw.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you, virtual audience. All right. Now this is going to be a rush, I know, to go first, but which team wants to report out? All right. Northern Illinois, non-Chicago.
We're Northern Illinois, so what we've been discussing about the problem is, first of all, the 70% we see there is a little high. Our hub is 25% trained to hire ratio. So the first question that we want to ask when we do that is, what's clean energy? And that's the awareness that we want to give to our employers. Our employer base really is what we need to make that awareness. And that awareness comes by in more projects, helping them get more projects, working with Small Business Association so they can start having these jobs available for our participants, right? We've been hearing in Rockford that they have solar people ready to go, but there's no solar jobs to do that. So one of the things that we can do as an action item is help our trainees look at the transferable skills of what they've learned. So even though if your region, like Lake County, is heavy on manufacturing, what are those transferable skills that individual has that can go into a job that is clean energy related, but in a different company that is there? Because the clean energy sector could go from the administration all the way down to the installation, right? So there's a whole range of where they can go. And also, all our participants that are coming out of the programs are barely new. And so a company wants to hire someone with experience. Well, these guys can shadow. These guys can do this, right? So there's a lot of things that they can do. The measurable here that we wanted to look at is increase that number of placements, whether it be by on-the-job training, apprenticeships, work experiences, get their foot on the door in order to get that increase in placements there. And also one thing that we talked about that a lot of our LWIAs are already doing is we do an annual event to reward our employers, and we make it very formal with the board. We also want to do that with the clean energy sector and say, you were the one that hired the most, and get a little award, and here's the participant, right? So making that awareness on a regional level for that. And what does success look like? Well, it's the active, thriving, sustainable projects. So companies that say, I want to stay here in Illinois because I have the talent to do that. So that increase, and there's got to be a way that we can measure economic development.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So I got the 5-minute signal. So for our other groups, what we're going to do is if you heard in what he just said something that you also wrote down, don't talk about that action. Just talk about if you have a different measure, a different success signal, and then I'll make sure not to keep everybody late because I know there's other sessions. So let's go here up to the south because I'm closest to you. I'm going to give you a microphone. Who's your speaker? Oh, who wants to be the speaker? You want to do it?
Want me to do it?
I'm the least qualified.
Okay. So our actions were to identify employment pipelines, to incentivize hiring, to strengthen relations with county government, and maybe impose some local worker requirements, increase awareness of our programs, and then strengthen our barrier reductions for trainees. Yeah. Let's see. So for measures, it would be the number of local worker requirements, the number of organic hires versus those incentivized hires, and then surveys with employers to see how those folks are faring when they take them on. Yep. Success signals, more employers participating in seeking our trainees or our graduates from training, and then more applicants coming to us that want to get into the training programs.
You know, something I liked about what you all said was systematically impacting it locally, putting systems in place and requirements in place on the local level. That's awesome. How about this group right here?
Oh, ha ha ha. It's me. I already know. Okay. All right. So we had really similar things to everybody. I think great minds think alike. A couple of things we had that were a little different. So we had hiring a program navigator. So I know this was retention and placement after you've already graduated, but I think having someone dedicated at the institution to be supporting those students, and then also on the back end, after they have already graduated, surveying those students, saying, do you think your skills are measuring up? How are your essential employability skills? Do they measure? Those types of things. Another thing we thought of was doing a curriculum review. So if you're thinking, so either the students after they're graduating, if they're not getting placed, but if they're not being retained, is that because they're quitting or because they're being fired? So let's do a deep dive of our curriculum, make sure it's measuring up. Let's engage additional employers and create that sort of continuous quality feedback loop. So.
All right, Chicago, have you figured it out? I think so.
Not at all. Test 1, 2. Okay. Full disclosure, I came in like half hour late. They pushed this pad in front of me and handed me a pen. And now they're handing me the microphone. So we talked about a number of actions. We talked about empowerment of the participants as being a real key factor to this. And we thought the things that would empower the participants were, effective job coaching. How do we build rapport? How do we motivate people? How do we get to understand what their actual barriers are? People don't disclose barriers right away. So we need to be able to get to the barriers to be able to employ countermeasures to help them. We talked about job readiness training and bridge programs and supportive services, and the fact that sometimes the supportive services don't kick in right away. So, is there a piece of resources that we can put in the front end so that people are not dropping out before they even get started? And so I think on the measure side, under the empowerment piece, we want to look at each one of these things and understand how effective is the job coaching? How engaged are the participants? And we can measure that by things like we reach out to them. Do they respond right away? Do they respond at all? How many times do we have to reach out before they respond? We need to understand that our coaching is getting through to them. I think the JRT and bridge stuff looks more like, qualitatively looking for those qualities that we are teaching and how do they show up in the actions of those participants. Moving on to relationships, we thought relationships were a big key part of this thing. Employers need incentives. On-the-job training, we need to figure out, and sometimes on-the-job training seems like a free thing for employers, but is it really free, right? Because they have to assign somebody to work with them, and how do we get at, and this is a survey measurement kind of thing, how do we make that more effective?
Perfect.
And then retention was a big part of this as well. We're tracking for a year. again, continued coaching, continued supportive services, and really building a relationship with clients. And I think the same kind of measures that we looked at in empowerment, trying to understand how effective those things are by how the clients respond is important. And then figuring out, what do we need to do differently? We can't just assume that everybody needs the same treatment. This spray and pray mentality has got to be more intentional by clients so we can really help them. We got to constrain resource. We got to deploy it efficiently and effectively so we can help them get to the promised land.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys all so much for your participation here. That was each of your answers was phenomenal. We just want to have you now go home, conduct your experiment. Know that if you did put that information in the QR code, we are going to utilize that to continue working on employer engagement at our kind of program level, but we know you're all working on that at home. I also want to just let you know you can reach out to us if you guys have questions. This is our contact information. And we just want to kind of give you a challenge for the rest of the time that you're here. You know, we opened the session by saying you're all scientists. The rest of the time that you're here, please frame how you're going through these sessions as a scientist. What are the things that are being tested? What are the questions we need to be asking that maybe aren't being asked? What are the things we assume, because that's the way it's always been done, that we can start to evaluate, hey, is this really working for us? Maybe it's been happening for 20 years, but is it really working? Is it really having an effect? So as you go through the sessions today and into tomorrow, just carry that with you. Your little scientist cap, or I don't know, Einstein hair, whatever that is, and really view all of these sessions with that frame of, you know, how are we making this better? How can we improve? Thank you guys so much.